What is your stance on really what freedom is to you and how you know you're in it?
But honestly, like at the end of the day, freedom means the ability to step into calling. So if I am misaligned, I am actually not free. So even if I'm making a lot of money, I'm making all the money in the world, let's say, but I am not actually stepping into my calling, and I am misaligned with what I feel like in my soul I'm supposed to be doing, then I am no longer free.
Welcome to Unreasonable Autonomy. My name is Sarah Grace. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators who refuse to settle. Here we dive deep into raw, real conversations with boundary pushers who have pursued seemingly impossible ideas and yet have achieved unreasonable results, whether that's in their faith, relationships, health, politics, yes, even business. All of those conversations are happening right here, right now. So let's buckle up because this isn't about playing it safe. Unreasonable ideas, unstoppable results. Let's go.
I am beyond thrilled to welcome one of my dearest friends to the podcast today, Braeden Parsons. Braeden specializes in business architecture, strategic execution, and high impact messaging that helps entrepreneurs scale smarter and move faster. He works behind the scenes to refine positioning, structure, and ecosystem development, ensuring businesses have the clarity and assets they need for long-term success. Known for his ability to simplify complexity and sharpen strategy, Braeden helps founders turn vision into momentum with precision and focus. Get ready for a deep dive into the brain of the amazing Braeden Parsons. Let's chat. Welcome back to the podcast. You guys, we have the amazing Braeden Parsons here. Hi, Braeden. Glad you're here.
Hi, thank you. Glad to be here.
It's so amazing. You guys, I've actually never had this experience where I've prepped a guest for the interview and what are some things you want to talk about? And Braeden was so good and filled everything out. And as I was preparing for today's interview, I started to look at the topics that he could talk about. And I was like, oh my word, I'm not even qualified to have these discussions, right? You are such a high level thinker that I'm like, can I just sit here and soak in Braeden's brain all day? Like, that's what I want to experience today. So thank you for being willing to share your genius with me. And for those listening who don't know Braeden, I was thinking about what would I say about Braeden personally, because you and I have sat in a room together, maybe 10 or 20 hours total that we've ever spent like in the exact same room together. Is that probably accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. And it's been an amazing 10 to 20 hours. You're an incredible person. So I'm so excited for this.
Oh, you're kind. And I was so amazed to think, okay, how much time have I actually spent in the room with Braeden? And yet when I did your bio and I introduced you as one of my dearest friends. And I didn't say that lightheartedly. I just thought, I don't know what it is about walking up to you, seeing you, talking to you. You have this ability to make other people feel like you belong here. You're important in this conversation. You have something to add here. And I just think I do feel like a friend of yours. And in fact, a dear friend, someone I trust, someone I respect, someone I admire, someone that is so much smarter than me, which I am happy to say on the record that you are so much smarter than me. But just thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome. And it's been incredible. Just like, I feel like what's added to it too is when we've been in those rooms, we've been growing together. So it's like, it's this journey of we get to see each other transform. So every time I see you, you're a different person. And it's awesome. It's so cool to see. And in the best way possible.
Oh, and that's what you'd hope. That's what you'd hope for, friends or neighbors or, colleagues, that every time you meet them, that they're improving and they're growing. And there's nothing quite like being able to sit in a room with someone who's watched you fail and someone that's watched you succeed. Be brilliant at what you do,
True.
be awful at what you do. And yet we are still friends. I love it.
Yeah, still friends. And that's never going to change. Even if you fail miserably and if you succeed tremendously, it's like, that's what I love about being in those types of rooms is like the people who they just level you up. They take you to another level. So it's been awesome really getting to know you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Such a compliment. And yet this is supposed to be about you. Like I'm diving to dive into your story a little bit. So create some context for me. I know about your brilliance. And for anybody listening, I secretly brought Braeden on because I heard he has this really intense feeling about time, like time. And so we will get to that. But in order to create some context around why you're here in the room, why you're in entrepreneurship, tell us a little bit about your background and what's gotten you to here today.
Yeah. So when I was first starting out, I would say I had a pretty good background, but a very intense one. So I grew up in a family of 7 siblings. So I was, the middle child. And it's been awesome, just chaos all of the time. I love my siblings to death. They're incredible. I love my family so much. And it's just been crazy because I knew from the very beginning that the traditional path was not my path. So the traditional path of going to college, getting a career type job, and then building up in that, ladder, climbing the ladder, that was just not for me. So at a very young age, I started selling stuff. So I remember being on the school bus and I was selling wallets to people at my school when I was young. I started an eBay drop shipping company. I started an e-commerce company. I was trying all of these different things back to back. And this is all while I was in high school. And I felt like I would go to school and then that was more out of obligation to check the list. Then I would come back home and I would study deeply people like Russell Brunson, Steve Larson. I'd be reading audiobooks. That's when my real school started, was once I left school. So it was really fascinating because I remember specifically I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I was figuring out how to earn some extra income, and I was riding one of those riding lawnmowers, mowing my grandparents' yard. Yeah, so I was tiny too. So I was like, how old was I? I was probably 17, something like that. I'm 24 right now. So I still look very young. I even shaved before this. I'm like, oh great, now I look like I'm 13. So it's like
it's okay. My coach is 13, I swear.
Yeah,
We've talked
about So I was riding this lawnmower and I was listening to Expert Secrets. I'd never heard of Russell Brunson in my life. And I was listening to this book and I was just resonating at such a deep level. The psychology of it was so cool to me. Him building a mass movement, everything, every single word he was saying deeply resonated. And what's crazy is I think, Brad's story is in the beginning of that book too. So that was my first time ever hearing about Brad and Cash Flow Tactics, Sovereign Entrepreneur, all of them were in that bucket. And I just had this intense feeling that whatever I do, I have to get around this person. I didn't know who he was, but I knew I had to get around him. So what I was doing is on my day job, during that time, I've worked some interesting jobs. I did a valet job. I did a car wash for a really long time, which is crazy because I'm not a huge car person. So I did 2 car jobs. And then I did UPS as well, where I was just putting packages on a conveyor belt. And all I did during that time, like 8 hours a day, was listening to the Marketing Secrets podcast and Steve Larson's podcast. And I was like, man, how do I get around these people? Yeah. So I started posting on social media, really trying to add value in people's groups like Steve Larson. And then I went for free to Steve Larson's event to really just help him out. So I was there to serve. And I was so upset because I don't tell my friend this, but I brought my friend with me. He was not in the world at all. He didn't really care for it very much, but I love him to death. He's an awesome guy. And my entire goal with going to Steve Larson's event was seeing Russell Brunson because he was a keynote speaker there. I walked out of the room. My friend walked into the room because I was going to use the bathroom or something, or going to get a drink of water. And no joke, Russell, everybody's cleaning up. Russell comes out of stage and then he runs into my friend. He's like, oh, hello. And they just started having this deep conversation. I was like, how did I miss out on that? That's incredible. So I was like, no, that was my one goal. That was my shot of talking to Russell Brunson, and I didn't get to talk to him. So I left that event a little disheartened. And then I still didn't know what I was going to do. So I still was working those jobs while doing this. And then a program came up with actually Catherine Jones and Myron Golden. And this was an expensive program. I was like, how the heck am I going to pay for this? So I called my grandpa, and I knew he had some money set aside for us to go to college. And I was like, okay, this might be my way of getting into this program. I called him, and I told him about the situation and how I'm not going to be going to college. I want to do this program instead. I want to actually learn the mindsets and skill sets to actually do entrepreneurship. And he said to me, he was like, you know what? I just don't believe you can do it. I don't believe in you. And that wrecked me. It like tore me apart. I had no idea what to do. So,
Oh, Braeden.
yeah. So after a while, I was like, okay, I don't know what to do at this point. Like, and thankfully, moms are incredible. My mom found out about the situation. I had no idea she did this. And she was like, please just give him at least the first payment for this program. So he gave me the first payment for the program, and I had to figure out how to buy the rest on my own, which was totally fine. And getting into that program completely changed my life. Because it was the first time it was the first time I committed like that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to actually put money on the line, and I'm going to jump into this calling I feel like I have. After that, one thing led to another, and Josh Forty, absolutely incredible person. I love him to death. He was looking for a marketing assistant, and it was between some people. I interviewed. I got the job, which is incredible, for Cash Flow Tactics at the time. And then Josh went off, did his own thing. Well, he was the CMO of Cash Flow Tactics during that time, but then I took his place a year later. So then one thing led to another, and then I've been in this world for now 6 years. I've had conversations with Russell Brunson, which has been a huge win. I was very awkward. Yeah, I was very awkward, but it happened. So that was the win. And just like my core goal was to be in like the Atlas mastermind. I was like, I saw those different masterminds. I was like, that is what I want. And I've been in those rooms now, and it's been absolutely incredible. But the coolest thing is, like, I could have never guessed it would have gone this direction at all. All I did literally was take a leap of faith and let God guide me, and then work really hard and serve people. That's the answer, really, is trusting God and then serving people and just having fun while doing it. So that's a little bit of my story.
I'm blown away, and I'm blown away by a couple of aspects of it. Number one, I will never forget the image of you sitting on the lawnmower, listening to like, I hope that was the conversation you had with Russell, because that is that epiphany moment of, I'm going to sit here and mow the lawn, and this is not my permanent place, right? Like,
No,
I am going to go in a new direction. I'm also fascinated by just what drives you. Like, I think about you, you 7 kids in the family. Like, why were you selling wallets on the bus? And why were you creating an eBay drop shipping company in high school? Like, was this all like, I need money to do the fun things that I want? Or was this just putting your brain to use? Like, what was driving you?
So what's interesting, I've thought about that question quite a bit. And I realize money really is not a motivator for me. Even like freedom isn't totally a motivator for me. And that's the common answer I hear from people, because I feel like I'm already free. I feel like I could drop everything and just go sit on a beach, and boom, I'm free. Like, I don't have to go through all the chaos to become free. And I'm free in Christ. I'm free in just being able to make decisions. I have agency. I have choice. So that freedom is there. I have freedom to choose meaning to what I associate meaning to in different situations, and nobody can take that from me. That's like the Viktor Frankl conversation. If you ever read his book, Man's Search for Meaning, yeah, absolutely incredible. And I realized deep down, what really drives me is growth and creation. So I'm obsessed with growing, and I'm obsessed with creating stuff that never existed before, and that excites me, and that's fun to me. I love mastery. I love strategizing. Those are really, really fun things for me. So it feels like play when I'm there. And like, I think about it, I'm like, okay, I have to figure out something to do with my life, because no matter what, I'm here. So why not do something I enjoy, and that will help me grow and become better, and will actually serve and help other people too.
Okay, 10 more questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I am really, really interested, especially because I know the network that the circles you run in, that you do not believe you need money to be free, that you're free in Christ, you're free in choice, you're free in meaning. And oh, to have you and Russell and Brad Gibb and Josh Forty in a room to debate the idea of what real freedom is. What is your stance on really what freedom is to you and how you know you're in it?
Oh, that is a fantastic question, because I already know
Podcast
there's going to be,
that would be
yeah,
fascinating. Keep going.
I already know the argument is going to be very likely that money does give you freedom too, and I do agree with that. Like you get freedom to choice through having revenue and money in your life. But honestly, like at the end of the day, to me, freedom means the ability to step into calling. So if I am misaligned, I am actually not free. So even if I'm making a lot of money, I'm making all the money in the world, let's say, but I am not actually stepping into my calling, and I am misaligned with what I feel like in my soul I'm supposed to be doing, then I am no longer free. But once I have that choice, I'm stepping into alignment, then I feel like that is where meaning comes in. I have like the freedom to choose that instead of chasing money, because I feel like money can also be a hindrance to freedom, because a lot of people don't step into their calling because something over here can make more revenue, make them more money. So they step into that instead of stepping into here where it's more uncertain, but they know the impact's going to be higher. They know this is what they're built for. So that's more my stance on it.
And it's a really solid stance on how driven you are, again, by your calling, that you know what it feels like being your calling or not. Have you had moments in your life where you have been misaligned and you've been called out that you are not where you're supposed to be?
Yeah, many times. And it's tough because there's a friction point where you see reality as it is right now, but then you also see a future reality. So it creates this gap. And that, I feel like, is the hardest. Those are the hard waters to like walk through, is because it's this inner war that's going on. And that's actually the difficulty, is staying aligned inside, as opposed to when everything outside says that it's not supposed to be that way. That might sound confusing, but does that make sense? I can clarify even more. I feel like I need to clarify that point.
Well, I actually think it makes sense. And how have you seen that actually show up in your life specifically? Because you've worked with a lot of organizations, you've had a lot of mentors. When have you seen that war go on?
Yeah. So here's a more tangible example of that, is when we were beginning and starting off Sovereign Entrepreneur, is we were really trying to align who we're talking to. So we realized we were talking to entrepreneurs, and I was like, okay, that's awesome. But we started to move that line a bit, and we would do JV, so joint ventures. So these were big launches with specific companies and partnerships and people, and their audience just was not aligned with us anymore. They made us a lot of money. Like if we're looking back, we were like, wow, we made a lot of money, but we actually stopped those partnerships because it wasn't in line with where we wanted to go. It wasn't to the caliber we actually wanted to go. So we said no to a good opportunity to say yes to something greater, but we didn't even know what that greater was yet. So that's an example of really just having the stance and the boundaries to say no to something that it's working right now, but it's not who you're meant to become.
And I want to press that point, because this is a fight for every entrepreneur that grows, is the idea that sometimes you have to say no to a certain avatar or no to a certain quality of lead. And those are people, right? Those are people. And you know this personally, that Brad Gibb, who you're on his team with Sovereign, for those of you who don't know that context, Brad has changed our financial life, right? And I was lucky enough to enter Brad's world probably when I was not a qualified client. It's been a long time, right? It's been a long time before the business really was doing stuff and stability and all this kind of stuff. And so how do you live with yourself when you know you are not helping people who really need what you're doing?
Yeah. See, that's a fantastic point too. And I think this really comes back to, it comes back to resonance, because here's a firm firm belief that I have is everything's working out for my good and God's glory. So that's a core belief that I have, and that everything that is happening has a purpose behind it. So in my mind, if we have to let go of a vine to grab a different vine, then that means there's somebody's story who we're going to be impacting in that new vine we're grabbing that has a ripple effect that we can't even see right now. So it's those hard choices, but the reality is it's impossible to serve everybody at once. What's the saying? If you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to no one. And really what we're building needs deep rooted impact and resonance. And you lose all of that, all resonance, if you're trying to talk to every single person. So the same is true with Russell. Just as an example, like I feel like he's expanded, and I think we can get to that point where we expand, but he started with a specific group he was talking with, and then he started expanding. So he didn't start out wide. He actually started out very, very specific and centered. Then he started expanding. So I think if somebody does have the desire to go big, then that is the route to go. But also our service, we've realized, is very personalized and specialized.
Yes, it is.
So our opportunity, we realize the bigger we go, the more complexity is added, but also the less personalized we can really get. So we had to fight this dynamic is okay, how do we scale this, but keep it personalized? And then also, how do we build something that even outlasts Brad? Because he's a genius, he's incredible, but everything can't hinge on him. So that's been a bottleneck we've been running into recently. So we're actually building a team and actually systematizing everything to solve that problem. But yeah, just where we were at, it would have been not a good move for us to go wide. It wouldn't have been.
Well, amen, amen, amen. You are one of those people that I would call an optimist, right? You think everyone is awesome. And maybe we'll talk about people you don't think are awesome, but you love people, right? You think everything is awesome. And that's a very real optimism, because I've seen you remain that way through huge ups and downs in the businesses that you've been associated with. And I love the optimistic idea that when I cut off a vine, there is someone there that is going to take that over for me. And I believe that has been so much of what has made Russell successful, in the sense that he is focused and serving. And yes, he's much more broad now, but he doesn't care if people are going and creating thriving businesses, teaching about funnels or being affiliates for ClickFunnels, or if they're out there teaching, the origin story and the attractive character. He doesn't care, because he simply knows he can't bring that level into every single person's business, right? I mean, you've witnessed 100%.
That. Yeah. No, that's an incredible way to put it. And it's one of those things where it's almost like a paradox. It's like this duality that you have to constantly fight with as an entrepreneur. So it's more of, okay, which side are you going to choose? Because you have to choose a side. Are you going to choose the side that actually moves things forward, or that actually pulls things back and makes you play small? So what's the more empowering belief?
Yes. And I feel so connected to the decisions you're making at Sovereign. On our side of our company, we have had to recently let go of the vine of working with those that are beginners. And for my little mama heart, started my, business on a busted iMac while Greg was in med school. It was the hardest thing for my soul to just say, I can no longer serve this group of people and just pray that God will take care of them. It is painful.
It's so painful. And what I'm realizing is growth is just a painful game, is what I've realized. Like I think people who are very growth oriented go through more seasons of mourning than basically everyone else, because they are dying to themselves so often. They're actually giving up a reality that they love for the chance of a reality that's not there yet, but they think they would love more. So, and that will benefit people more. So it's this constant cycle of honestly pain, but also progress and excitement. It's a roller coaster is what it is. It's absolutely a roller coaster. And I don't think people realize how heavy the internal battle really is, because it is very heavy, and it can get very heavy. And it's even more heavy when you realize that there's lots of isolation involved too. Not many people understand what a person who is growth oriented is going through, especially people who think that settling is the answer. When settling, that will eat you. I believe that will eat you alive more than going for it, is what I believe, but not I don't know if other people believe that. I feel like I'm in such a bubble, but yeah, it's a very intense roller coaster, but that is the exact thing that refines me and everybody who goes on the journey into the person who can actually hold the vision that they see. So that's the beauty of it. It's actually a self-fulfilling cycle. Is that's literally part of the refinement process.
Oh,
Without that, you couldn't have the vision.
and without it, you could not have the vision. Amen. And I
Yeah.
think about that, and I don't want to call him little Braeden, just younger Braeden, that was going to Steve Larson's event
I
for
called
free.
him Frady Brady. Did I tell you I had chronic anxiety during that time too? Oh, that's
No.
another part of the story. Yeah.
Okay, add
So
this. Let's go.
yeah, that was I renamed that version of me, Frady Brady. And the reason why is literally I was diagnosed during that time with chronic anxiety disorder. So for 3 years, I had intense anxiety that I was fighting. I would stay up till, let's say, 4 a.m. in the morning because I was so afraid to go to sleep. It was wild. I don't know what was going on with my brain, but I would literally like be splashing water on my face, and then it would get to the point where my body would just pass out. I would wake up, and I was like, I don't even know how I fell asleep. So very intense period of my life. Went to the hospital 3 times for this. They offered me medication. I said no because I wanted to get to the root of it and find it naturally. So it was a season of really saying yes to terrifying things over and over and over again, more like exposure therapy. And I got to this point where somebody invited me to youth group, and I really didn't want to go. It was one of those more charismatic churches too. So I was in the back. They had like the lights dimmed. Everybody was worshiping. There was like purple light in there. Somebody stepped out on stage, and I was hiding in the back so I wouldn't be seen. And they said, somebody in this room is dealing with chronic anxiety disorder. Tonight, your chains of anxiety are going to be broken. And in that moment, I felt this weight just lifted off of my shoulder, and I fell to the ground and I started crying. And I was like, this is 100% God. People started praying for me. And I realized the source of my anxiety was control. And I had to let go of the vine, and I had to give it to Jesus. And my choice in that moment was, okay, I am going to double down on Jesus, and I am going to surrender.
Oh,
And
Brady.
from that moment, my life changed completely, because that's when God started being like, okay, now I can use you. It took this long for you to say yes to it. And I feel like the same journey is going on with entrepreneurs. Is they're afraid to let go of the vine, and they're afraid to surrender, but they have this calling inside of them that's much deeper. And once they surrender it, that's when the ball starts moving. Is it requires surrender. That's a rule, that's a law of the spiritual realm, is surrender. That's one of the key laws, surrender and faith. And that supersedes all other laws. So mental laws and physical laws, those ones supersede them. And it just requires letting go.
We're going to have 10 parts of this interview, just so you know, with Braeden part 1 through 10. Okay. We're going to need a lot to go into this.
There's a lot to get into.
I think that there's something interesting that you have been in some of the most prominent, successful, I put that on quotes for those not watching on YouTube, rooms in the industry and in our circle. And yet,
that's true.
Do you still witness that hiding in the back of the room happens at all levels? Like you hiding in the back of the church? Like, how are you seeing that at even the upper levels?
That was very surprising to me. Like I thought when I was going to walk into, let's say, the highest level room, I was going to be like amazed. And like those people, what they're doing is absolutely incredible. But also at the same time, what I realized is a lot of them, I wouldn't want to switch lives with them. And the reason why is because they've become almost trapped by their own businesses. As like, man, that I don't know how I feel about that. So that actually had me lean even further into our message at Sovereign Entrepreneur of creating lasting wealth outside of your business. So then you could step away if you wanted to, because a lot of people, even in that room, like it becomes even deeper seated, where it becomes an identity now. So it's even harder to walk away.
Yes.
If you're being called to something else, it's even harder, because now you have your reputation on the line. You have your identity wrapped around this thing. You're going to have to start from scratch. So you have all of this back end memories of all this hard work and this pain that you've gone through to get to this point. And then you're essentially throwing it all away. But that's what it feels like to your mind, but that's not reality when you're looking at it from a spiritual lens. You're not actually throwing it all away. That was all refinement and necessary for the next step. So it does get harder, I think, actually, which was very surprising to me. I thought these people would be like just free flowing, like in totally in their element, but it's almost like it becomes more and more restrictive at a certain point. And I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I noticed that, and that surprised me.
Yeah, I think that we think when I achieve XYZ, I've arrived and I've made it. And it's that whole idea of retirement and like chilling on the
Right.
beach and like, oh, I've made it. And the reality is, if you are obsessed with growth and mastery, you're going to get pulled again when you've hit the 1 million,
Yeah.
the 10 million, the 25 million, and you're witnessing that. And what are some of the symptoms that you see in those high performers where they are trapped? What does it look like to them?
Ooh, that's a great question. Can you clarify the question even more so I can see what direction to take this?
Yeah. So when you're in those rooms and you say these are people that are trapped in their businesses and they're
Yeah.
experiencing turmoil and maybe even feeling a secondary calling to go and do something new, what are some of the signs of that, or what are you witnessing in their lives that makes you stand so firmly behind Sovereign's message of there has got to be wealth outside of the business?
Yeah, so this is it, is that it bleeds into every other element of life. So business is an integration into every part. It's an integration into your family. It's an integration into your health. It's an integration into your enjoyment and happiness in life. So the business that you build will directly affect all of that. And I see people who step away from that realization and that calling. They almost become robotic, and then a hole starts forming that needs to be filled. And this is where addictions come in, which is very, very heartbreaking. This is where trying to get that feeling, that high again, comes in. So I've seen, like, whether that's drugs, whether that's doing stuff that's adrenaline pumping, and this hole starts getting bigger and bigger, and it needs to be filled until finally you can't ignore it anymore. So that's what I've realized is it is actually a pain point, and then it affects family, it affects the entrepreneur's health. So getting that problem solved, like actually creating lasting wealth outside of your business, is the permission slip to step into your calling oftentimes. And the concept we talk about in Sovereign Entrepreneur is freedom from versus freedom to.
Oh, wow.
A lot of, let's say, employees or people in the workforce, their entire mindset is freedom from. Like, I'm gonna save so I can have freedom from this job, so I can retire and I can go lay on a beach and I can have freedom from responsibility. But entrepreneurs, the more chaos they have, the more certainty they actually need to take on, so they can take on more chaos. It's this endless cycle, right? I need more certainty so I can take on more chaos. And if you have no certainty in your financial life, your personal financial life, then it's going to be very hard to step into another level of chaos where you need to reach for a new calling. And that's where freedom too comes in. And this is actually the core motivator for a lot of entrepreneurs, is they want freedom to step into a new business or new calling if they're feeling it. They want freedom to take that vacation with their family if that's what they want to do, right? They want freedom to live their life, make decisions, grow, impact, and become the next version of themselves. And what happens is entrepreneurs grow, but they forget to stabilize. So a lot of entrepreneurs go on this build and burn cycle where they build, and because they didn't stabilize, they come crashing down. Russell was on this over and over again, because before he actually built ClickFunnels, and he was afraid to go on that build and burn cycle again, we have this concept called never go back. Like, he was afraid to go back to where he came. So our goal at Sovereign is for the entrepreneur to never have to go back. We set up the build and stabilize. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs are missing, because it gives them permission to go and build their next business or step into their next calling. And that's exactly what Brad Gibb did as well. Like, I don't know if you know his story.
I
but
know a lot about his story. Yeah.
yeah, his story is a constant cycle of freedom too, like stepping into the unknown. Like even in the very beginning, he had a job that was paying him 500K. Anybody would have been like, oh, you made it. But he stepped away and he stopped because he had the calling to build cash flow tactics. Same thing happened in cash flow tactics. He had the calling to step away. And because he had the stability from building wealth outside of his business, he was able to step into sovereign, and sovereign would not have existed today if he did not build that stability first.
I love your concept of bringing in so much of people's like full stories, right? Like Russell has been through what you're going through. Brad has developed this and has gone through this, and you have gone through this. I had no idea about your anxiety. I consider us dear friends, and now we're even better friends about the role that anxiety played in helping you come to know God, and that he knew you and pointing you out and saying, let's go, let's do this. And I think one of the challenges that entrepreneurs face is sitting here in the now and being satisfied, but also being dissatisfied. Like, I want more, right? But I am okay with the day, right? Like I know where I'm supposed to be. And how do you organize that in your mind? And then I have a couple of follow-up questions of being at peace with where you are, but also, driven enough that you are going somewhere else.
Oh, it's a mix of beliefs. But yeah, you're right. That's a huge plague right now, is comfortable dissatisfaction. It's like just dissatisfied enough where you don't want to move. So I have a few beliefs in my mind. Let's see if I can pull them out. One of them, for being in the present, is everything is happening for a purpose. So that's a firm belief that I have, right? And that's one I mentioned before. So if I believe everything's being divinely orchestrated by God, then I'm like, okay, if this feels slow right now, it actually could be a catapult, because it goes back to the burnt toast theory. Have you heard this one before?
No. Educate me.
Okay, so it's this idea where and there's other examples of this too, but this is just well known. If you put toast in the toaster and it burns, and then you have to go and create another thing of toast, and I might be butchering this, then that actually set up your entire day where it's off a bit. And that burnt toast could have actually been saving you from a car wreck. It could have been saving you from running into somebody who you shouldn't run into, or running into like the love of your life, let's say, like, because you burnt that toast. Now you created this situation in the future that wouldn't have happened if you never burnt that toast. So that's the idea behind it. And with that belief, then it's much easier to be like, okay, this isn't moving as fast as I thought it would, but that's okay, because it's moving exactly how it's supposed to be, because I believe it's already been done. So an example of this, if I have a strong enough vision, I believe that vision has already taken place, because God is outside of time. And if he's given it to me, that means he's already seen the reality outside of time. So now I'm just living in the timeline, just going about my day, and then it will inevitably take place because my mind is focused on that, and I am heading in that direction.
Okay. So there is a passage in the Book of Mormon, which I believe to be a religious text. Okay. And I know
awesome.
Very familiar with Mormonism, with working with Brad. And one of the elements is that God shows a prophet of the time, thousands of years ago, he shows them our day, right? The days before leading up to the Savior coming again. And the beautiful message there is actually exactly what you're talking about as far as time, that God has already seen it, right? And he is telling this prophet to write things that will help that future that he is witnessing, right? He opens this prophet's minds, and it's incredible, right? It's absolutely amazing. And it's a pain point in the brain to just say, well, God's going to do with me what he's going to do with me, so I'm just going to let him run my life, versus how much choice do I have in the matter to create this life I feel so drawn to. So when it goes well, we're like, well, God fixed it for me. And when it doesn't go well, it's like, I'm terrible and I'm sinning and like, wow, this kind of stuff. But what's your relationship like with God, as far as how much say do you have in your life versus he's directing every move and thought that you have?
Oh, this is such a fun conversation. I'm glad you're taking it down this route. Okay. So here's what I believe in that aspect is, so when people say God is omnipresent, that they don't just mean he knows what's going to happen in your life. Well, here's what I believe. It's not just, okay, he understands all the steps I'm going to take. He understands every single timeline that could have ever existed. Example, even if I didn't pick up this water right now, like if I would have not have done that, that created a whole new timeline altogether. So not only does he know exactly what steps I'm going to take right now in this timeline, you could say, he knows all the other ones, the infinite possibilities and all of the reactions, what that would lead to. So that's what it really means to be omnipresent. And not only does he know that for me, he knows that for every single person in history on Earth. That's omnipresence. And it's absolutely wild. So if you think of Doctor Strange, that is literally it. He's like seeing all the possibilities, but in every single person's life, all right now. And he's outside of time too. So he's seeing it from a perspective that we don't even see it from. So it's absolutely incredible. And I got into that and I forgot what the original question was. So I want to lead to actually something. What was your original question?
Yeah, just the idea of how do you make decisions not wanting to divert God's plan for you?
Okay. So I believe it's impossible to divert God's plan because he's already seen the entire process, and there's nothing that I can't do that I can do that will surprise God, is what I firmly believe. So there's a lot of people who are like, man, I messed up, but that's not a surprise to God. In fact, he can use that mess up to actually go where you're supposed to go. And he is using that mess up to go where you're supposed to go, is my firm belief. Because that took place. Think of even Paul in the Bible. If you would have walked into his story before he was actually writing half the New Testament and doing all the incredible stuff he did, people would think he's a total failure and a total mess up. But God used every moment of that to actually convict him and shape him into the person who could lead what he was going to lead. So I really do believe there's divinity in every situation, in everything, and it's all being orchestrated.
And so you can move forward with that belief. You can simply move forward with confidence that God is behind this and that he will burn the toast, so to speak, if something needs to be diverted or timed a little bit differently, that he will intervene in a way. Is that an accurate assessment of what you believe?
Yeah, and it's interventions in a way that I probably won't even recognize as interventions. They're constantly happening. So that's the beauty of it, is I bet you there's something that happened to me 3 years ago, let's say, and it actually set my life up for something that's going to happen 50 years from now that I don't even know about. So everything's interconnected is how I see it, which is absolutely incredible, right? And even like prayer, this was a concept that I heard from Taylor Welch. He went into a study that happened a long time ago where this scientist chose these random group of people to pray for a list of patients who were going to have heart surgery. So they prayed for them at random. They're like, okay, I'm going to pray for all of these people. And at random, they prayed. And what they found was the people who were prayed for recovered 50 times faster.
No.
But here's the crazy part is this happened 10 years ago. So everybody who was praying for him thought this was an upcoming heart surgery, but no, this heart surgery already took place. So they gave him a list of people who already undergone the surgery. They didn't tell him how fast they recovered. Then they chose them to choose at random, pray for them. And the people that they chose actually recovered faster. So it's proof that prayer even works when you're praying for somebody in the past to affect the future. So it's like this crazy, like it's absolutely insane how it works. So like, even like stepping into your future self, like a big form of faith that I found is thanking God. And what I mean by that is being like, thank you, God, this already took place. Thank you, God, that I already showed up in this way because you've already written that story for me. So it's like coming from this place of faith and definity, or like certainty, where like this vision that you've given me has already happened. Now I'm just showing up exactly how you want me to show up to actually make it come to pass. So it's this wild concept of, but I believe that is true faith, right? Faith is certainty, and faith is stepping into the unknown, trusting that God will make it happen somehow.
I think you are the person who has explained that concept of future self in the best, most applicable, accessible, faithful way I have ever heard.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. The Future Self, that book is incredible too, by Benjamin Hardy. And 10X is Easier Than 2X is a fantastic book as well. Totally worth reading.
It is so good. And the way that you are saying it, like, I'm like, good heck, I'm a Mormon. I should know this, right? I should know this. But I am so blown away by this concept of prayer and future and past and thanking and really how we don't understand how God's time is working and the power and what did you say? Omniscient? God is omnipresent.
Omnipresent. Yeah.
God
It's
is
the same with
omnipresent.
grace. His grace too, though, is the same exact thing. It's this realization. I had this realization a while back where I was saying sorry all the time to God. I was like, sorry for this, sorry for that. And then at the core of that belief was believing that what Jesus did on the cross was not enough for me. Because if he truly did die on the cross and wipe away all sins, past, present, and future, then that means he was already aware of whatever mess ups I'm going to do today, tomorrow, the next day, whatever. And my heart is changed. So I have a heart of righteousness now. Like, I'm a slave to righteousness is what it says in the Bible. So no matter how hard I try, I will always be drawn back to Christ and back to God. So the amazing thing, though, is I started saying thank you instead. I was like, God, I know, like, you already forgiven me for what I did. And I want to just thank you for your grace and for your love. I thank you for already forgiving me. And I want you to continue to renew my heart and strengthen me. So it's like this idea of coming from a different heart posture altogether. Instead of one of guilt and shame, it's one of freedom and acknowledgement and gratitude. And that heart posture is empowering, I've realized. So that's just another example of realizing that God is outside of time. So he's really not surprised when we mess up. And it goes back to that. I guess this is future self, the shame cycle of like, there's this constant shame of like feeling like you're not enough, doing enough. And instead coming at it from, look how far you've come, look where you're going. Like, make a list of all the things you've already done and how you've even grown today alone. And it's amazing how far, like, how much movement you're creating. And then just feel gratitude. Gratitude is the answer to so many problems.
Oh, it's the underlying thing none of us do, right? That really could solve so many challenges that we're facing. And I appreciate you bringing up this whole idea of shame and how God operates and how we can reframe that. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to talk a lot about time, like your view on time. Entrepreneurs regularly beat themselves up because they don't use their time well. Or, oh my gosh, I have 2 hours. What do I do with my time? And I know that you have studied the hacks of performance and all the things, and you've read all the books, and that's a conversation that I want to ask you about later. But tell me about how you wrap your mind, how you operate in time.
I love that question. Okay, there's a few different routes I can go here, and I think I'm going to go both.
All of them.
One thing though, before the Grace Message, that book has absolutely transformed my views on Christianity, on Jesus. That shifted my perspective probably more than any other book.
Okay, we'll link it in the show notes. Great.
Yeah, that one's incredible. And then so with time, this is the conversation I was having with Josh Forty, that he thought it was really cool. So I'll just go into it a little bit.
Let's go.
The idea really was, I was flying on a plane and I was looking out the window and I realized, man, this is actually insane, because I have a better view right now than even Solomon had in the Bible, in the Old Testament. And he was the richest man on earth. And for a $300 plane ticket, I'm getting a better view than he ever had. And I was just looking out the window. And then I realized, I was like, and what else is cool is I'm on a plane right now. And I have just saved so much time through somebody else's invention of the plane. And I realized, based off of exposure and experience, we're living longer than any other people in history. If you look at it through that lens, like if you look back 400 years ago, let's say, how were people operating? Like, I don't know when people were using horses, but I just like to ride a horse to the places I've gone would have taken me so much time, for example, or walking, traversing. But even further, not only that, it's the inventions too have been absolutely insane. So even this computer, like right now, I don't have to, we would have to go and find each other in person to have this conversation. But that just saved me all of that travel distance and time by having access to a computer. Same thing with stores. Like people used to worship pineapples back in the day because they were so hard to get. I could literally just go to a store and get a pineapple. I didn't have to travel to wherever pineapples are grown, chop it off of the tree, and then eat a pineapple. But I like time has literally collapsed based off of exposure and experience. Same with movies, shows, like documentaries. I can watch a documentary right now and I don't have to travel to Costa Rica to see what Costa Rica is like. Like I'm not going to get the same quality of experience in that case, but it still is compressing time because I'm getting exposure and I'm learning lessons that I would have taken maybe years to learn in literally 10 minutes or less. So based off of that, I really do believe all of us, whether we realize it or not, are living longer than any other people in any time in history because of the inventions we have access to and the exposure we have access to.
And it's not just, oh, we're living to be 83. It is that
Correct.
the everyday efforts are taking 1% of the time that they used to.
Yes, so quickly. We've literally collapsed time. So in my view, I'm actually like probably 1,000+ years old if we're looking at it through that lens. Yeah. So I have just like, I have so much experience and exposure to compare to somebody if I were to talk to them, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Right. And there's a difference though, because there's divine wisdom as well, divine knowledge, and that compresses time like crazy. So a lot of people back then had access to divine wisdom. I think we do. We definitely still have access to that divine wisdom now. So that compresses time even more and even further. But now we have so many inventions.
Tell me more about how divine wisdom impacts time.
Yeah. So an example of this would be spiritual downloads is just an example. There, like I could get a connection, a spiritual download, even a dream, something of those sorts where it's like, okay, that made a connection for me that set up time because I got a divine strategy. I got a divine revelation that who knows how long it would have taken me or if I would have ever discovered that on my own. So that's just one example. And that's God actually intervening.
Which we are so glad he does. Does. So how does that,
so glad.
To like, you know, Frady Braeden, right? How does that not bring intense anxiety into your life of what is expected of you? That you use every minute, every moment, max it out. You have the technology, you have the DoorDash, you have the airplane, like
right.
That could like be a whole beast of anxiety in someone's life. The expectation, the pressure.
And that's going back to how are you flowing in life? So if we're going back to the time conversation, I actually don't really believe in the traditional just like maximize every minute. I think long term that can be dangerous. It's very robotic. It's not leaving room for the Spirit to intervene, so the Holy Spirit or Jesus to intervene at all. So my view on it is more, I lean towards, actually somebody who's great at explaining this is Taylor Welch. So I lean more towards his like, it's all about energy management instead of time management. So an example of this is if I'm going to be doing something, I want to do it when I'm in the right headspace and the right energy. And I can create that by changing my state. Right. But like an example of this is I'm more creative at night, for example. Like at nights, I'm more creative. So I typically, I do a lot more of my creative work at night because I know that I'm just going to be tapping into that naturally. Whereas I'm way more logical in the mornings typically. So that's when I would be doing more logical tasks is in the morning. But I just know that because based off of my energy levels. Another example of this is if you track your energy levels throughout the week, there's typically a day where they sink. So I would put certain tasks on that day because I know my energy levels, the pattern of it has been they sink there. But I'm on fire and ready to conquer everything on this day. So I'm going to put higher leverage tasks on that day because I know I'm going to show up a more powerful version of myself on those days just based off of patterns, right? And some of this could be even placebo, but it's good to at least to track it, and then you can counterbalance it. So let's say if it is placebo, and on these days I think I'm just more low energy because of it, or it could be an actual signal from my body that's when I need to rest, because I created so much output these days that now my body needs to rest on this day. So I'm going to make that a strategic rest day. So that's how I view it, is look at it through the lens of energy, because that is the most important currency for an entrepreneur, is energy.
Well, and the last time you and I saw each other was at Funnel Hacking Live in Vegas. And this was part of Tony Robbins' presentation, was trying to help us just simply recognize our energy and how it feels and how it breathes and how it interacts and how it does those things. And that's probably just stage one in what you're talking about, is just observing energy, right? I'm fascinated by the idea of creating the energy that is needed. And before we pushed record, you were talking about how you have like a morning routine, which please don't turn off the podcast, because everybody's going to hear morning routine and they're going to like throw up and say, I've heard this and I've read all the things and whatever. But how have you elevated that with your understanding of time and of your energy levels, and you're doing big things? What does that really mean to you, creating energy?
Yeah, there's a few elements to it. So one, I have refined that quite a bit. Like that is part of the process of refinement, I believe. And that's just how my mind works too, is I want to figure out, okay, if this isn't working for an end outcome that I actually want, then why am I still doing it? So that's like a big thing is okay, let's actually refine a process that works for me specifically. Like I dropped the whole idea of trying to model somebody else's morning routine. I think that's a terrible idea, because not everybody is built the same. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take this from a more of a scientific lens or creative lens, and let's just craft this on my own and create my own version of this that actually works for me, because I have a different calling than everybody else or from other people, and I have a different motivators, different everything. So that's really what I've done. And it's been very impactful and very helpful. The other thing too is I am very much against like the guilt culture of being like, okay, if I wake up one morning and let's say I miss one part of my morning routine, it's actually more damaging for me to take on that guilt mindset than it is to be like, oh, that was just supposed to happen, I'm going to keep moving forward. So if I have the guilt mindset, that's going to bleed into the rest of my day. And that's almost what's taught, is it's like consistency over everything. But then if you make one mistake because you're a human, then now you're living with all these other emotions that's going to bleed into everything else, and then you're not in high performance mode anymore. So I see that as very damaging. Like there's billionaires right now who don't even have a morning routine. They don't even care, and they're just operating. They're just going. So it's almost like a facade that in order to be successful, you have to have a morning routine or something along those lines. That's not true. That's 100% not true. But if it helps you show up, like that's all I'm optimizing for, is helping me show up and remind myself who I want to show up to be. So it's an identity play, all like it's more like an identity ritual, right? That's more of what it's like. It's like, okay, I'm going to do these tasks, and then I want to step into the person I want to show up to be today, because I easily forget. And it's a reminder to show up into that version. So
who do you want to show up to be?
I love that question. That's changed a lot throughout the years, to be honest with you. It's constantly being refined. And that's part of my morning formula is I have that all written down. I have, okay, how do I want to feel? What is like my vision for my life? How am I showing up?
Like, are you willing to share
throughout the idea? What are my beliefs?
Or is it really personal?
No, I don't mind sharing. Let me see. I think the most important one go for it.
Well, we talk about how, we've been in business for a long time together, and how you feel like I have made transformations, and I feel the same about you. It's just, there's this new Braeden. And so I am so curious. This is my own selfish endeavor to say, like, who is Braeden now? Who is he?
Yeah. So one of the most powerful things I think I implemented is telling myself how I'm going to feel that day. Because most people let circumstances dictate how they're going to feel, but I let myself dictate how I'm going to feel, and then the circumstances will follow along. Because that will change the meaning I attach to circumstances, the perception, even how I act in those situations. So feelings is actually a very core center point. Whether I know there's people who would throw up at hearing that, like Brad Gibb is very much not a feelings person, but I think he could relate, where it's like, it's very important to actually, if they're going to exist in this world, which they do, why not determine beforehand, set the frame of being like, okay, this is how I want to show up and this is how I want to feel. So
Okay.
a few things that I read to myself is like, I feel so happy. I feel the wonder and bliss of life. I feel so grateful. I feel so blessed. I feel so lucky. I feel so loved. I feel so good right now. I feel like I'm living at the highest frequency of abundance, love, and success. And then I go down and I just keep through doing, I feel like a man of purpose. I feel energized. I feel healthy. So I start saying these things because I'm like, okay, if I want to feel this way when I wake up, I might as well like start programming that into myself. So those are big ones. And then I read, I'll read this one. So this is the first paragraph that I typically read in my morning formula. I read, I always receive back in life what I feel I already have. I take as if actions as if I already have it. I see the possibilities that are before me, then I choose the one with the most energy, and then excitement, intuition, and the Holy Spirit are my guide for transforming reality. The secret is to constantly think about what I want, obsession, plus feeling good about it, like it's already mine. So excited expectation. I make decisions based on how each opportunity that's presented makes me feel. If it makes me feel good, I take action. So this is more stepping into, there's actually a lot of psychology around this. It's not just like being feelings based, but it's actually letting my subconscious do a lot of the work and a lot of the heavy lifting, because the subconscious cannot speak words, it speaks in feelings, is what I've realized. So that's where like gut feeling comes from. And even some of the highest entrepreneurs in the world, this is what they're operating on. They're operating off of gut feelings. It's like, okay, what does that mean? And that's what it means, is it's coming from their subconscious mind. Like this is based off of all the exposure and experiences they've had. And the Holy Spirit too, I believe is like a huge guide of this, because the Holy Spirit is seeing the entire playing field and I'm only seeing a fraction of it. And it's crazy for me to think that just what's on my radar screen is the actions I should be taking when there's an entire ocean that I don't have data around. So that is what I believe someone is tapping into when they're going based off of feelings. Like, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your life, when something felt off, it didn't feel right. And you either turned away from it or you stepped towards it, and then you felt what that led to. So that's the subconscious mind picking up on little tiny micro signals that the conscious mind does not have the capacity to pick up on, is what I believe. So that's why I think that's very important.
It's trying to alert you. The subconscious is trying to do all that it can do to try and direct you in a way. And so not taking feelings so seriously, but rather looking them as data and a place to start. And what does this mean? And bringing in curiosity.
Correct. 100%. Yeah. And it's just the truth too. And I'm sure there's scientific proof around this. I don't have it on me right now, but the more happy I feel and the more excited I feel, the better results I'm going to get. And it just builds so much momentum in that direction. So that's what I'd rather have, is I'd rather have momentum building in that direction than one that's a negative direction. And that's just how it is, because I'll approach problems differently. I'll approach people differently, circumstances differently, and it will just continue to build on that momentum.
Oh, and I love your ability to just face things that are uncomfortable or face things that are unknown. You're just kind of like, I've just kind of figured out this morning routine that kind of works for me. And Brad Gibbs thinks it's dumb, but I'm going to do it because it, I mean,
he might think it's awesome. I don't know. I haven't told him.
We'll ask
but he's very factual. He's very like straight to the point, get to the numbers.
He is. It'd be fascinating
it's
to
awesome.
see what like energy management would look like for him, right? And how that would differ
100%.
from you. I think that's brilliant. So I do love your ability to expose things that are uncomfortable or new, and those things. And so I actually want to go like bring this back to one of the very first words that you said. And that was, there are 7 kids in your family. You've got 6 siblings, and that you are a middle child. Okay. I am also a middle child. Let's talk about this. There are There are some big assumptions that are made around middle children. You know, black sheep, they're rule breakers, they struggle with identity, they are lost in the mix. They are, I mean, there's a million different things that you could attribute to a middle child. What role has being a middle child played in who you've become?
That's a fantastic question. I think it's done a mixture of things. So I would say I'm the oldest boy in my family, so I have that area
Oh,
where I feel like,
interesting.
okay, this doesn't feel as middle child I guess, because
Yeah.
I'm the oldest of the boys, but I have older sisters. So I think what what it's done to me is I it kind of put me in a mindset of scarcity, I think, to be honest. And the reason
That is
why
common.
is
Yes.
yeah, yeah, because I'm kind of, like, there the siblings ahead of me, they get usually like first dibs, they get shotgun, they get all the cool stuff. The siblings behind me, they get spoiled and in all the best ways. So then I'm just kind of like, it's like that weird dichotomy where I like there's lots of responsibility on me, but there's also like not enough, and it's just like this weird like middle
Mm.
ground. Um, I think it was good for me though, because I also got to see multiple perspectives. So that's the thing that I loved about it is I
Wow.
could see where my younger sister was coming from, but I could also see where my older sister was coming from. So I almost served as like a bridge, if that makes sense, like a bridge between the two sides, and it was kind of cool in that aspect.
That's amazing. That's actually really amazing. And so it makes me follow the reason I ask this question is all of us have things in our lives that are working in a scarcity mindset against us that may not be the perfect scenario for us to achieve what we want and who we want
Hmm.
to be, right? And that may be that
Yeah.
scarcity mindset or that may have been your anxiety. And so how have you let me start that over. How do you coach people to be accepting of their reality? I'm a third child, I'm scarce, I have anxiety, you know, these kinds of things. How do you help them be accepting, but to also get where they want to be? That's the most awful way to put it. Let me try it again. What would you say to people as someone who is a middle child who had things working potentially against them and someone who had anxiety and was paralyzed in the back of a church kind of thing and then felt God reach out to them? Like, what is your message to them about no matter the circumstance, you can get what you feel called to go and get and achieve?
That's a great question.
And let me give you some context, right? I was sitting
Yeah.
at an event, and I won't say who it was, but this person was speaking and was saying, "Look, if you are a white male in your mid 30s and you grew up middle class, I don't feel sorry for you. Like, get after
Interesting.
there, make something of your life and go." He says, "However, if you are a minority single mom living in New York and you know, you're on your own, I will do everything that I can to support your comfort and safety."
Hmm.
And so I'm just fascinated around your thoughts around circumstances that seemingly put us behind and what we should expect of ourselves.
Ooh, okay. So to me, this is what that reminds me of is the label chronic anxiety disorder. That could have been something I held as a banner, and I could have held it high for everybody to see, and that could have been the best, most like perfect excuse for me not to do anything. Um, but I decided to replace that label with a different label, and I think that is the big thing is the realization that we have the choice, especially like with our minds. Like I could decide tomorrow that I want to be a firefighter. Like I'm no
Mm.
longer Braeden, the internet marketer. I'm now a firefighter, and we have that choice to literally take on a new identity and a new persona in an instant. We can choose that right now. Nobody's stopping us from doing that. So my belief is that is literally just a cage to keep people captive. And the biggest thing is I think it's actually a facade, um,
Wow.
It's just a smoke and mirrors to protect from fear, scared of the, like, being afraid of the unknown. And I think fear is at the core of that in reality, because if I can attach a label that disqualifies me, then I don't have to step out in fear anymore, and I don't have to be courageous. So the biggest thing in my mind is recognizing the label that I'm and the identity that I'm choosing, and then actively and intentionally choosing a new one and stepping out in that new identity.
Oh my gosh, is that an invitation? That is an invitation. And as
Yeah,
someone
100%.
personally that has been impacted by the fact that you chose a different identity after that day in that church, I am so glad you did that, right? And
Yeah,
the
me too.
tens of thousands of
Yeah.
people that you have impacted through the companies that you've worked with and worked for, like the impact of just you making that choice should be enough to inspire anybody listening that
Mm.
feels like they're behind or they have something working against them. Thank you. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and
Wow.
it sounds easy, but it is terrifying, because it, like,
Sure.
from a psychological standpoint, it feels like you're literally dying is the thing. So the realization of faith, I think, is the biggest aspect of that, because once you realize you're not actually killing off like an old version of you, let's reframe that. Let's say, no,
Mm.
you're integrating with a new, more powerful version of you. And that is amazing. So if you look at it, because every story that's created in the mind is just made up. Like, I could make up the story right now, that any future story, I should say, any future story in the mind is literally just made up. It's fiction. It's imaginative. So if I'm making up the story right now, that if I step into this new identity, everybody's going to hate me,
Mm.
that's a fictional story. What if I instead, because I have the choice now that I recognize the story that's being created, I can create a new story and be like, once I step into this identity, God is going to take me places where I never would have known, like, he would take me. He's going to use me in ways that will impact people. I'm going to feel amazing. I'm going to feel grateful. It's going to be an amazing journey. And God knows exactly what he's doing. And he picked me for just a time as this to step into this identity. So, like, just reframing stuff is such a powerful tool to be like, okay, recognize what I'm saying to myself right now that's causing fear to step into this is actually fiction. Like, I'm writing a book right now. I'm writing a book, a fictional book, and I might as well write one that's more positive and actually in the direction that I want to go. So just an invitation to recognize that and rewrite those stories too.
I will be the first buyer. You send me the link. I want to be the first buyer. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Right.
to rewrite all those stories in the brain. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I love this message so incredibly much. And you have fought for this. You have fought for this ability to learn how to reframe. And we study it so much as marketers and as people who pitch and sell and storytell. We learn it so much on that aspect, but to bring it
Very
home
true.
and be like, well, how are you reframing your actual experience
Yeah.
in your life has been so profound to me.
Sell yourself. Why are you, like, if you're a great marketer, if you're fantastic at what you do, why are you unselling yourself on all this stuff? Just get good at selling yourself. You're your own worst critic.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling called out by Braeden here. I'm feeling a little bit called out.
I'm the same way. I'm not perfect in this at all, but it's just funny when you recognize it. It's like, what am I doing to myself? Why am I being like this to myself? It's just so interesting, because it's like this own cage we're putting ourselves in. And I fall victim to this all the time, but it's literally just learning those tools to, okay, recognize it, then get yourself out of it, and then keep doing that. It's a continuous process.
Oh my God. This is why we're called the 1% crazy, right? This is
Yeah,
why.
we're insane. Yeah, it's true.
Here for it. We want to be here. We choose to be here. Well,
Yeah.
Braeden, we just have learned so much today. I am so grateful for your perspective, your courage. I will never forget the lawnmower, and I will never forget the purple lights in the church, in which God said, "I'm ready to use you." And you have deeply impacted my life, many of my friends' lives, and certainly way more people than even I am aware of. So thank you for sharing your goodness with so many.
Yeah, thank you. You're incredible, and I just appreciate you even inviting me on. This is super fun. I appreciate it.
More conversations to be had for sure. And so in traditional format, I just have a couple of questions, a little bit more rapid fire, casual, to just help our readers connect with you a little bit better. So are you ready?
Awesome. Yeah, go for it.
Great. What is a book that every entrepreneur should read?
Yeah, 10x is easier than 2x. Fantastic book. That book is so good.
Love it. Are you a dog or a cat person? I know this one.
Dog. I'm a dog person.
He literally honed his energy this morning by taking your dog on a ride, right?
Yep, that's what I did.
I love it. And then second to last question, what is something on your bucket list that you have not yet done?
Oh, geez. There's so many things. Okay. That's hard just picking one. Let's see. I want to go to Ireland. So that's because my heritage, my red hair, I would just blend in there. It would be like, everybody would be like, yeah, that guy's from Ireland, but I'm actually from Idaho. So it won't make a ton of sense, but that would be very fun going to Ireland.
That's okay. That I believe you're more from Ireland than Idaho. Who knows? It's great. All right. And then the very last question is, as you look ahead to the end of your life, right? What do you hope those closest to you say about you?
Man, he loved Jesus.
Oh, I will take
it. And that's enough for me. I'm happy with that.
He loves Jesus, period. Present tense. I love that so much. Well, thank you again so much, Braeden, for your ability to live unreasonably and be so open with us about how you've been able to achieve that. And we are here to watch you continue to do it and impact the world. Thanks again so much for being here.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. If you loved this episode, my guests and I would love to hear about it. Go to the show notes to reach out and let me know what resonated with you or what topics or guests you want to hear in the future. I am here to create for you. Look, I deeply admire your commitment to pushing boundaries and going after an unreasonable life. Keep dreaming big, taking bold steps, and expecting the unreasonable. For more, go to the show notes to dive deeper into the conversations that will keep you going. Thanks for being here.